Hello guys, welcome to this new episode of Code Researcher. On Code Researcher, you know what we do, right? We learn, we code, and we have fun, right? So on this episode, we'll be talking about one very important Flutter widget, which is the FutureBuilder widget. If this is your first time hearing it, if you've been hearing it but never used it and you've always been using it, this is an opportunity for you to also see how it is done, how I do it, and how you can also implement it, right? So without wasting your time, let's go into development, alright? Okay, so I already have my app running. As you can see, I have the app bar already defined. We have the future builder, and then we have the center title to true, right? So let's go into the very main implementation, which is the body. So this body, I will take a center, and then this center will take a single child scroll view. If you don't know about a single child scroll view, it is a widget that helps us add scrolling functionality to our app, right? So if you don't know about it, I've already created a video on it, which is also in this playlist. So you can go down there, reference it, and then to understand what we are doing, right? So we have our single child scroll view, and then it has a child of column. Alright, so it has a child of column, right? Okay, so in this child we'll have children. So let's give it a child of the future builder, right? Alright, so that is the future builder widget that we are going to talk about. The future builder widget takes two arguments, which is the future, the asynchronous operation, and then it also takes the builder, which in there is where we manipulate the future or the data that we receive from the future, right? So let's go define a future for our builder. So let me first do this. Alright, so at the top here, we will define a late future, and we just want to display strings, right? So let's give it a list of strings. So this future, it takes in a list of strings, and then we can call it our future, like this. Yeah. So that's the future. Since the future is the future builder takes in a future which performs an asynchronous operation, we would have to create or simulate the future operation, right? Because we are not performing a network operation. We are not calling a data from accessing data from an external source. So we would have to simulate that using the delayed method, right? So we can have our future. We are creating a method that returns the future, right? So yeah, so we can have our future, which returns the same items like what we created at the top, the future variable or the future object. So we have our future that takes in a list of string, and then we can call it fetch data. We add an async keyword, and we do this. If you are performing a future method, every future method goes with async, because without the async, you can't use await, right? So we'll see all those things right now. So inside here, we would await future, the delay. We'll just perform a delay operation. So we'll pass the duration, which can be in seconds, So we give it 5 seconds, delay for 5 seconds. Alright, so we want to return a list of strings, right? So we can do this. We can create a variable, then within the 5 seconds, we'll add data to the variable and then we return that variable. Or I said a list, sorry, you can create a list and do that with it. Or we can just await these 5 seconds afterwards, then we just pass the list, right? But let's go this way because I normally do it this way. So let's go string. So then we'll call it data, which will be an empty string. We'll return this later. So let's just return it. And then within the 5 seconds, we will set states and then we'll add the data. We'll add items into the data. So we can do string 1. We can do string 2. And we can do string 3. Let's just copy this first and then change this to string 6, string 5, and then string 4, right? So what we are doing here is in the fetch data method, we are creating an empty list, and then we are performing our async operation, which will be the await. Then inside the await, we are passing a duration for 5 seconds. So wait for 5 seconds, and then after 5 seconds, return the data. But within that 5 seconds, we are also setting the data. We are assigning items to the list, right? To the list, which is data. So that's what we are doing. Now we have to assign this future to our future variable. So let's go into this. So on the initial states, on the init states, when the app loads for the first time, we will assign our future to the fetch data future method, right? Yeah, so this is what we do. Now we are done with this fetch data. We are also done with this future, but we would have to use it in here. So this builder takes a future and it's on that future that we will perform our operations, right? So this future becomes a list of string, right? Okay. So inside the builder takes context, which is the current app context, and then also takes a snapshot, which is the state of the future, right? Yeah. So inside this snapshot, we'll first want to return our future data to see if it is working, right? So we'll return as a text, and then we can't return just one text because it is a list of text, right? So I want us to use the spread operator to perform that. So we'll return a column. This column has children, and then we are using the spread operator. If you don't know about the spread operator, if you haven't heard of the spread operator, I also created a video which is in the same playlist. So you should go check that out. Yeah. So we have our snapshot, and then we'll access the data from the snapshot, which is a list of string. So we'll access that, and then we will map that data and call each of them string. And then after that, we would open and close brackets, and then we return that string in a text. So we just return this like this. So that is all with a future builder. You build it, you call the widget, you assign your future, which will be performing an asynchronous operation. Then inside the future, you pass the current app context, and then you call the snapshot, which holds the state of the future. So that is what we are doing here. So in the snapshot or in the builder, we return a column. Then in the column, we take the data from the snapshot. We'll map each data and call it a string. And then in there, we'll return a text and then pass in that data, which is the string, right? Okay. So let's run our app and see what we got. Take note of that red. Yeah. As you can see, when we first ran our app, it stayed for 5 seconds and then afterwards it returned the list. So that's what we are doing right now. So that's what we are doing right now. Now, during the 5 seconds, there was no data in our list, right? During these 5 seconds, there was no data in our list. That's why when we were accessing the data in this snapshot, we got the error, right? We got the no error, no data, whatever error. So we will be taking care of that right now, right? We will be taking care of that right now. So earlier on, I told you that this snapshot holds the state of the future, right? So first, I want us to check. This is how we get rid of the red, right? So we would say if the state of the snapshot, right, is if snapshot dot connection state, if the connection state is waiting, right? Let's say if the connection state is done and snapshot has data, if the snapshot so we are saying if the connection state is done, that means if the process is finished and the snapshot has data, then display this text, right? So let's rerun our app and see what we got. Alright, so you can see that our app is running without the error, but during the 5 seconds operation, which can be more depending on whatever you are doing, when you are now fetching data from the internet, the user's connection can be low or the data might be large, so you perform other operations before returning the data. So you wouldn't want to show a user a white screen whilst loading this data. And that is why FutureBuilder becomes very important, because during that process or during that time, we can show any type of widget, we can show any placeholder to let the user know that our data loading or we are fetching our data or the operation is still in action, right? So what we can do is this. So inside the snapshot, inside our column, we can still say if snapshot dot connection state is waiting. That is if our snapshot data is still fetching, then do this. So we will display a text. We will display a text. So we will display a text that says fetching data. So Let's rerun this. Let's rerun this. So at first we'll have to see fetching data, and then after 5 seconds we'll have our items, right? Yeah, so that is the beauty of snapshot. And then we can change this into a nice circular progress indicator. So instead of using a text, we can use, we can wrap this in a column like this. And then we use a circular progress indicator like this. And then we would put a constant, a little space in between the text and then the indicator, right? So there's this. Then we are done. So let's see how our app looks like when it's fetching data. Yeah. So that's the beauty of the future builder. Right. So we've explored the snapshot.connection state when it's done. We've explored the snapshot.has data, and then we've also explored if it is waiting, right? So let's also explore when it has no data. What are we going to do? So we can also say, that if the connection state dot if the snapshot's connection state is done and snapshot dot has data not. If the state is done but there's no data or there's no list in there's no item in the list, then we can return a text and say list, or we can say no item found, right? No data available. So we can do that. So let's go back here and then comment this out so that there won't be any data, and let's see if this will work. So yeah, let's go. Yeah. So as you can see, there is no data. All right. So we said it does not have data, but rather it has data, and it has data, which is the empty list, and we can say snapshot if it's done and it has data and also it is empty, right? Yeah. So we are saying if it is done loading and then there is data and the data is empty, then tell us no data available, right? So if it is done and then there is this list, but the list has no data, then tell us no data available. So let's explore that option too. Yeah. So as you can see, that becomes the very, very, very beauty of the future builder, right? That becomes the beauty of the future builder. So whilst keeping the user waiting or using a true or false value, writing a lot of implementations that are not so stable, to display a dynamic UI to show a loading state, you can just use a future builder where all you have to do is to pass the future, which will be an asynchronous operation, right? Which will be an ongoing asynchronous operation. Then after passing the future to the builder, to your future, you come in the builder, and then you pass in the current app context, and then you also take the snapshot, and then you can use the snapshot, which becomes the state of the future, to write any kind of UI or any kind of information that you want, right? So with this first one, we are checking that if the connection state, if the future is done loading, and there is data inside of the future, which is at the list, then display that data, right? If the connection state is waiting, that means if the data is loading, then display fetching data and also the progress indicator. And if the connection state is done and then it has data, but the data is empty, then tell us no data available. We also have one last option, which we would like to also explore, which is if the connection state is done and snapshot has error, right? If it has error, then do that. If it doesn't have any error, then you can explore these options. So this particular function also works the same way we are doing this. So you just check the condition. If this, then perform this. All right. But these are the three very main important ones that I use mostly, which is if there is data available, if it is loading, and if there is data available but it's empty, right? And then we do that. All right. So that's that for the future builder. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching. If this is your first time watching, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because videos like this, practical videos like this, drops every time. It drops like 2-3 times in a week. And also we do live codings on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, to explore more data or more techniques and operations in Flutter. Yeah, so if this is your first time on the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your fellow developers, or just share with people that you know need this video. And if you've already subscribed to the channel and you are watching, then thank you very much for sticking around. Please like, comment, share, support the channel so that you wouldn't be the only person learning, but that friend of yours, that colleague of yours, or that family of yours. Thank you. See you on the next episode. Bye bye.